backwards. And whether you're in the room right now or online joining us, we can probably agree that even more so now in 2020/2021, the world seems backwards. And if you're a Christian trying to live in this backward world, it gets even crazier backwards. Because so many times it feels like the world is battling against your beliefs, and they're just hitting each other, and they're just in battle all the time. And what the Bible asks you to do is the opposite of what the world asks you to do. And what God says is right, the world says is wrong. And what God says is wrong, the world celebrates. And it's backwards. And if you're a Christian teenager in this room right now, that can be hard. That can be tough. That can be hard to navigate. You can feel like you live in a backwards world. And we call that counterculture. Just like counterclockwise is the clock going around the other way, counterculture means that you are the opposite of the culture, that you will appear backwards to it. That's a gift and a curse, guys. Because what it means is that you have Jesus and you get freer every day, but it makes some things harder. It's like you're becoming more like God and finding out his promises. That's the good part, but then you're becoming less like the world you live in, which is the hard part. So just like that video showed, we are called to be backwards. You are a counter to your culture. You're less like the world and more like God every day. But like I said, that's the good news and the bad news. But I've got some help for you tonight. If you've ever felt stuck between the pressure around you and the offer coming from above you, tonight is going to help you out. But before I give you part of the solution, we need to take a better look at the problem of what counterculture means. We call it being in the world, but not of the world. So as Christians, we live here. It's our home for now. We're in it, but we're not really of it. It's not where we really belong, and it's not where we're going to end up, and it's not part of who we are in Jesus. It's like God calls us to be the elect later, but we're exiles now. And we're the chosen ones eternally, but we're foreigners now. And we have this big mission, but we also have a daily routine. And we've got our eyes on the supernatural, but our bodies are in the physical. And we're watching our world just fight over national borders, but God says our citizenship is in heaven. We're in the world, but not of the world. And here's how the Bible puts it. Enter God's kingdom through the narrow gate. The gate is large and the road is wide that leads to ruin. Many people go that way. But the gate is small and the road is narrow that leads to life. Only a few people find it. See, what Matthew's talking about is being counter to your culture, that most people are going that way, but a few people are going to go this way and be opposite, be counter to it. And that verse says we need to be backwards. That even though most people are going to go that way, it's not going to lead to anything good. It's going to lead to the ruin. It's going to seem like it's a great idea, but then you're going to realize, oh, I'm supposed to be counter. I'm supposed to be backwards. And the tension that you might feel as a Christian in the world right now, this is that there's a big road this way and a tiny one this way. And everyone's pushing you this way, but you're like, I think I'm supposed to go that way. But hardly anyone's going that way. It seems backwards. I want to be with the culture, not counterculture, because it's scary to be counterculture. You feel that tension every day. Here's how John puts it in his letter. It says, if you were of the world would love you as its own. But because you're not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. That seems a little dramatic, but have you guys ever felt that way? Like as a Christian, you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to navigate that. I don't know what to say or not say. And you say one thing online and you get attacked, or you don't say something about something online and you get attacked. Or you don't go to that one party and people call you judgmental, or you try to bring God into a conversation and you're either foolish or naive or weak or a prude. It's just hard to be backwards sometimes. It's really hard to live counter culture. And sometimes people will prejudge you because they think you're going to be judgmental. So they're going to prejudge you because they think later you're going to judge them. And you're like, I haven't even done anything yet. And it's just hard to live in that middle ground, right? Here's a quote that might explain that a little bit. The more a society drifts from the church, the more it will hate those who speak it. That's the world you're living in, students. That's where the tension comes from. That's where, when you're on your social media or at a hangout with a bunch of people, you're feeling that. How can I honor my God but be here? How can I be in the world but not of it? You guys feel that sometimes. And we say that the Diff is a place where teenagers can come and figure out God and life together, but sometimes it feels like if you don't have it figured out when you leave this building, you're just a hypocrite. And we leave and go, was that real? Did that really happen? Am I really counterculture, or am I just part of the culture? Because it's the opposite. What God celebrates, the world condemns, and the other way around. Here's how Mark Batterson puts it. The world measures success by how much you make and how many people serve you. God measures success by how much you give and how many people you serve. It's backwards. And it's difficult sometimes and it's confusing sometimes. How can we live for God when we're still living here in the midst of a culture? And so I told you earlier there would be help coming. Here it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you really quick ideas, and then you are together going to talk about it later. In a second, we'll break out. So I'm going to give you the summaries, and then you're going to flesh it out together. So as you hear my 3 things, I want you to pick the one that you most connect with, and you'll go to that group, okay? So here's 3 lies you have to stop believing if you're going to be counterculture. And they're going to blow your mind. Like, you're going to be like, Kris, you should probably be fired for saying that, okay? But let's take a look at them, because they are lies if you believe what God says. So 3 lies to stop believing if you want to live counterculture. Number 1, follow your heart. We hear that all the time, right? You do you, boo. Follow your heart. Find yourself. Whatever your heart wants you to do, you go do that. If it makes you happy, you should be doing it. Let's go. The problem with that is what God has to say about that. And here's what he has to say. The human heart is more deceitful than anything else. It is incurably bad. Who can understand it? So when we're like, follow your heart, that's dumb. If you had a boyfriend or girlfriend that was deceitful more than anything else and incurably bad, would you follow that? No, you would. Thank you. No, you would not. But for some reason, we think when it's our own self that we can trust that. God makes it so clear you can't trust that. You'll drive yourself crazy if you try to follow your heart. It will lead you like this, and you'll just end up more frustrated and sad than before. So don't believe the lie to follow your heart. You need to follow truth. You need to stand on what you know about the character of God, not what your heart is telling you any second of every day, because it's going to lead you crazy. Here's a good quote for you. The world says, follow your heart. Jesus says, follow me. The world says, believe in yourself. Jesus says, believe in me. The world says, discover yourself. Jesus says, deny yourself. The world says, be true for you. Jesus says, be true to me. Because he wants to control you? No, because he knows how to get you to your best fulfillment. He knows the human heart. Why? Because he made it. He knows what we fall for. He knows what we need. He knows what we love. He knows what will make us happy to the depths of our soul. And when we follow our heart, all we do is get farther away from that. So, don't believe the lie, follow your heart. Second lie to not believe. God is the ruler of this world. What? Kris, you're up there as a youth pastor telling me that is a lie, that God is the ruler of the world? Since you will not believe me, I'm going to let God talk for himself, okay? So this is Jesus. Here we go. I cannot speak with you much longer. So he's talking to his disciples. I can't talk long because the ruler of the world is coming, but he has no power over me. Now is the judgment of this world, and the ruler of this world will be driven out. The God of this world has blinded the minds of those who don't have faith, so they couldn't see the light of the gospel and of Christ's glory. God is sovereign, and he has us. But right now, Satan was given dominion over this time and this place and this age. Here's how, I love this website called Got Questions. If you ever want to know about God, it is so awesome. You type it in and it gives you really good answers, like biblically based answers. So here is what they said about this whole thing about Satan being the ruler of this world. The phrase, God or ruler of this world, indicates that Satan is the major influence on the ideals, the opinions, the goals, the hopes, and views of the majority of people. Does that sound familiar? His influence also encompasses the world's philosophies, education, commerce, thoughts, ideas, speculations, and false religions of the world are under his control and have sprung from his lies and deception. So ruler of this world just means ruler of this age. Satan does not have full authority, but he has full influence. So from the fall of man to the second coming, from when Adam and Eve first brought sin into the world until Jesus comes back, this is Satan's realm. And I just want to encourage you with a couple things. If you're freaking out and you're just, imagining Satan with a pitchfork following you around, let me please clear something up, because I've already told you what it means, but here's what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean Satan gets to decide everything. God is in control. He is sovereign. The Holy Spirit is guiding and protecting you. And it also doesn't mean that Satan can now control you, because if you're a Christian, he can influence you and he can try to trick you, but he cannot control you. He has boundaries that protect us while he's the ruler of this age and of this place until Jesus comes back. So I know that was like a lot of crazy information, but I just want to get it out there because you're going to wrestle with it later in your breakout group. So I want to get to the last lie so we can start talking about this together. Lie number 3, you are on the defensive. See, all this talk about Satan running the world and we can't trust our heart and you got to live backwards and counterculture, yeah, sometimes it can be really hard, right? And it might leave you thinking that you're on the run or you're on the defensive. Or sometimes you feel like the world is right and you're crazy, that you're the victim, that you're the one in the wrong. But the opposite is actually true. You are not on the defensive. If you're a Christian, you have the victory. You have been equipped for battle. You are winning and have won the spiritual battle. You need to be on the offensive, not hiding out. Here's a quote that I think sums up where we're at in 2021. Not wanting to appear judgmental, we mistakenly try to make biblical truth fit the culture around us. That's what happens in the moment we realize, I'm counterculture. I'm backwards, and I don't want to stand out. So instead of standing out, I'm going to blend in. And we can't be counterculture and be hiding if we're a child of the King. It just doesn't work like that. Because we're not the victim. We have nothing to hide. You guys have heard this verse 1,000 times probably, but I want you to really understand what it says. Because it talks about being counterculture, not being on the defensive. You, meaning you, are the light of the world. A city on a hill can't be hidden. And you don't put a lamp under a basket. Instead, you put it on the stand where it shines on the whole house. In the same way, let your light shine before people so they can see the good things you do and praise your Father in heaven. See, we're not supposed to be on the defensive, blending and hiding. We're supposed to be out there, seen, doing stuff, serving, loving, shining, and having the world watch us live backwards to show them that it works. And I get the struggle. Every Thursday, I don't want to be on this stage. My staff prays for me and encourages me and says, God told you to, so get up there, here's your mic. I don't like people looking at me. So this verse challenges me because I want to be under the lampstand. Like, please, cover me up. I'll feel much better under the basket. But I can't because God has a light in me that needs to shine. And hundreds of people are going to meet him if I just keep doing what he asked me to. So I get it. We can't hide. If you're still not convinced, listen to this. The question isn't what's wrong with the world. That's already been answered. The question is, where did the salt and light go? Where did we go? Let's talk about that tonight. We got to be in the world, but not of it. I heard this quote that just really stuck with me. It said, a boat doesn't sink by the water around it. It only sinks when the water gets in. Guys, that's us. Like, we're that boat. Like, we're in the world. Like, the world is all around us. We're in it. We're floating in it. But it can't hurt us until we let it in. Then it starts to sink us. That's the opposite of counterculture. And so we need to figure out how to be different. We need to figure out how to be in the world, not of it. We need to figure out how to reach people with the love of Jesus and protect ourselves. We need to live differently. I wrote down some ways that we need to be different. I want you to think about these. I want you to write them down. I want you to talk to each other and God about it. Being countercultural means you talk different, and you date different, and you grieve different, and you fight different, and you think different, and you love different, and you hope different, and you worry different, and you vacation different, and you expect different, and you spend different, and you give different. Keep adding to that list. We just need to be different. We just need to be backwards. We just need to be counter to the culture. Is that scary? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. And there's a whole long line of people in front of you that lived backwards, that were counter to the culture. Noah was living backwards when he built the ark. Mary was living backwards when she swore she was a pregnant virgin. Joseph was living backwards when he believed her. Jesus was living backwards when he won by losing. And the criminal on the cross next to him was living backwards when he believed him. And David was living backwards when he brought a rock to a sword fight. And Paul was living backwards when he celebrated in prison. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were 3 teenagers living backwards in a furnace. Be backwards. It's so worth it. So what I want you guys to do is you're going to break up into 3 groups based on those 3 lies. It's going to go 1, 2, 3. You have leaders who are there, who are ready with the verses that have to do with that lie, some ideas of how to engage with those verses, what to do in those groups. And so you can use it I want you to use it for accountability. I want you to find someone in that group and be purposeful about saying, will you partner with me in being countercultural? Let's make some goals today. Let's put them in our phones. Let's put alarms in our clocks so we can remind each other. Find accountability. And I want you to have some prayer time. Pray together, either as the whole group or a couple of you. Figure out how you're going to give this to God. And you can memorize the verse or make art about the verse or some sort of physical element about the verse to remind you. You can put something in your phone or you can post something. However you want to engage with that lie to make it so you're not believing it anymore. Your leaders are there for you to ask questions because this is tough, deep stuff. You won't just wrestle with it when you're a teenager. You'll wrestle with your whole life. Your leaders have to figure out every day how to be counterculture. So we're going to help you do that today. And so what you're going to do is if you want to work on not believing that you just need to follow your heart, you're going to go over here. And if you want to work on and learn more about God not being the ruler of this world, then you're going to go to the back. And if you want to talk about not being on the defensive, you're going to go over here. And so there's some stuff out there that you can use for art. If you are online, we want you to do the same things, just not here, obviously. But you can do the same things. You can find an accountability partner. You can look up verses. You can make art. You can talk to your parents. You can text the leader. You can do all those things. Do them at home. Put on the worship set that you click on after and just have some time with God where you're wrestling with this stuff and figuring out what does it look like for me in my life right now to be counterculture? And do I want to live backwards? And if I do, how? Because it's hard, because the whole weight is pushing me one way, and I'm supposed to take that little tiny road. And it's difficult, which is why there's church, because people have gone before you that are here to championing you. So you're going to break off into that lie. You have a few minutes to do all that, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to worship together and really give God a chance to speak into those things and make us bold and courageous and more like him. So go ahead and go to one of the 3 breakout groups, and we will come back and worship together. Goodbye, online audience. We will see you next week. Text us what you do.